Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nola Hennessy, and I'm sitting in a park that's near the Pony Club in Tamborine, Queensland. I wanted to give you an opportunity to have a look at the beautiful scenery behind me. And despite the fact that there is a highway next to this park, this is a really pretty place, and I wanted to take some time today to talk with you again about alliances. If you recall, in my last podcast, I spoke about alliances being fundamental to us achieving and sustaining global peace. And without going too much into the results of the Trump trial in New York and the results that came through a matter of hours ago, the thing that came to my mind, apart from being pleased that justice and common sense had prevailed, was the thought that you need to be very careful who you align with. When we talk about alliances, the word ally comes to mind, and allies generally speak of good intended people who are on the same good path as yourself, but it does depend on context. In a war situation, you have friend and foe, you have ally or enemy, and in that respect, an ally is somebody that you feel and you believe at an intellectual level is also going to support what you do. And there really is no point being allied to people and connected to people who are working against what you want to achieve. Whether that's a personal achievement, whether that's a corporate goal, whether that's a political aspiration, no matter what it is, we should be allying ourselves with and aligning ourselves with people who support our intentions and support us as human beings. Now, look, when we look at political motivated actions, we look at the criminal implications of those politically motivated actions. One has to question whether the foundational agenda, which is selfish anyway, but the foundational agenda was moral or not, was ethical or not, was honest or not. And in this instance, thank goodness that a jury found unanimously, as they'd been instructed, to find fault with what had been done, and therefore to hold that individual accountable. Now, the extent of that accountability, the repercussions are yet to be determined. And, I was thinking as I was driving out here this morning, there's a fundamental issue if you have a former or a current president of the United States who is convicted as criminal. Why would the law allow that person to receive the same benefits as somebody who was full of integrity? So in other words, when a president's term is over, they're entitled to protection, they're entitled to transportation, they're entitled to things that the average public servant is not entitled to. But if down the track that person becomes a convicted criminal, no matter the severity, it's, a crime is a crime, why would those privileges and those entitlements continue, and why should they be justified? So I think the United States has a job now, given that this is a precedent. The United States has a job to rectify the entitlement of its public servants from POTUS down when their actions dishonour the office and dishonour themselves and make a mockery of what a position of that level of power should have. So putting that aside, when we have a sense that people are not on the same page as us, if the difference is so large, then you could construe that that person is not allied or could not therefore be a solid alliance for you going forward. And sometimes we think that some people can be allied to us in the short term. In the medium to long term, what happens and what is revealed means that we have to reconsider that alliance. So an alliance is not a forever thing. An alliance is something that requires you to be discerning all the way along through that relationship. You've got to set boundaries. You've got to have a line that you may not even know you've reached until after the fact, but you've got to have a line that says, you know, if you work outside of this, then it's a no-go for us anymore. And the way to ensure that that happens is to have almost like a performance agreement between the parties ahead of time. When the amount of money, the amount of effort, the amount of emotional depositing that you do into a situation or an initiative, when that's high, then you need to make sure that all parties, all allies to that execution know what is expected of them. They know the minimum standard to be achieved. They know what excellence looks like. They know what success should be for the collective. So no matter whether you have a sense that your current alliances, it's not documented or it's not articulated in a way that holds people accountable, or whether you feel that your alliances are a bit wishy-washy, a bit loose, in need of tightening up expectations and performance standards for each of the parties involved, no matter the circumstance, you have an opportunity to make sure that those alliances serve you. When we think of alliances in the personal sense of the word, you know, throughout our lives we encounter people that we form friendships with, we develop understandings with, we have a mutual desire to nurture that relationship. One could call those alliances, for want of a better word, but it's not to say that as people evolve that those alliances and those individual or group allies aren't going to change. So you've got to stay open-minded. You've actually got to be prepared to accept that as people change, the level of the alliance is going to alter as well. Particularly when it's a personal understanding, and the alliance relies on people maintaining a commitment to certain standards, to loyalties, and to understanding as circumstances and people change, whether they're prepared to bend and go with the flow. So look, you know, I want to keep this one short and sweet about alliances, and it's a topic that we could get quite technical about. I intend to go much more deeply into my new model for peace and the alliances side of things in my current book, which is on global peace, and I'm still working on that. It's going to be potentially another 2 to 3 years in the writing, because as things happen and as new information becomes available, I'm seeing that yet more chapters need to be written, and I'm looking at things holistically, not just through a political lens, not just through a national security, international security lens, not just through a human rights lens, not just through an environmental lens. I'm looking at things very holistically and looking at things like the energetic influences that actually impact on human beings every day. We know that that is the case. We're electromagnetic beings. We have energy channels throughout our body called meridians, and the flow of that energy is very much dependent on our emotional response to things, whether it's a negative or a positive emotional response to things. And where people are continually negative and angry, that actually puts out an enormous amount of negative energy globally and therefore universally. So we cannot detach ourselves from the universal energetic impact of some 8 billion people on this planet. I must take that into account, and so I'm looking quite sincerely at ways to measure universal and energetic impact, and how humans will change their behaviours negatively or positively depending on what else is happening. This is probably the most exquisite. We're at the end of the fall in Australia, and tomorrow, the 1st of June, is the first day of winter officially. But seriously, this is the prettiest place. It's hellishly noisy with all the traffic. But when I was here about 30 minutes ago, there was a big truck over on an acreage property over here, and it was like they were mulching branches of trees, and it was just way too noisy for me to take this session. So I thought I'll just go and grab a coffee, which I did, and come back and see whether the noise had subsided. But you know, this is the kind of environment that is so special about Australia, and particularly southeast Queensland is so lush. And you know, we're at the end of the fall and I'm still in relatively cool clothes. Certainly not a cold day by any stretch. It's probably maybe 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just wonderful. I will be back with you at the end of June. I'm just about to support a client in Australia, federal government, and I'm very excited about what we're going to be doing, what I'm going to be doing in support of them, and collectively what we're going to achieve. Very, very exciting piece of work, quite long term, and I'm greatly looking forward to that. And for the first time in 45 years, more than that, 47, 48 years, I will be commuting to the office, their office, by train. So that will be an experience. So last time I did this, I used to have knitting that I'd take on the train. I don't do that so much now, but I certainly will enjoy not having to grapple with motorways and freeways and endless bottlenecks and road rage that we have going. Thank you very much for listening. I will be back with you at the end of June. Bye for now, folks. And I'm going to just let you see this view again. I hope you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed sitting here. I'm surrounded by birds and it's just wonderful. Bye for now, folks.